I'd like to call the May 4th meeting of Casa Grande Planning and Zoning Commission to order. Please join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hoorah.
Thank you very much.
I heard nothing ring out there.
Good job. Thank you, guys. Michelle, let the record reflect that everybody is present this evening. And all commissioners are present. Director, changes to the agenda, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have a couple changes to this evening's agenda. The first would be our old business item, G1, which was a PAD amendment for the Tri-Valley development. And that item will be removed from your agenda this evening, and we will put it back on your June 1st agenda. The applicant could not be with us this evening, and so we are moving that to the June meeting. Also, under new business, item H2, which is the zone change by Four Leaf Properties, that is also being removed. We don't have a new date for the hearing on that, but we will, the city will repost the property and send new property owner notifications once we have a new date to hear that one. So H2 is also being removed from your agenda, and those are the changes.
Very good. So those two changes, commissioners, can I have a motion to approve those changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the changes to the agenda.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
We got 22.
We good? All right. I think we approved this by voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Very good. Thank you. Commissioners, we have two sets of minutes, I believe, before us, or just the one? Yes, two sets.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion
Please.
to approve the minutes of the meeting of April 6th and a special meeting of April 20th.
Okay. Two at the same time? Do we have a second?
Second.
Very good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Thank you. All right, next we'll start our consent agenda. And those items that you see on the first three items there under F are on our consent agenda. And they are such that no separate discussion of these items will be held. We'll act on them all together. No separate discussion will be held on them unless the commission or a member of the public would like to pull them, and then they'll be pulled and heard in the normal manner. So please, folks in the audience, please take note of those that you see there on the agenda, and if anybody wants to pull any of those, please jump up and let me know. Okay? Okay, well, what seemed to be questioning what that's about, I don't know how to describe it to you. I see some questioning about which ones they are. I don't know how to address that. Go ahead.
There are items
Director.
F, 1, 2, and 3 on
Very
the
good.
agenda.
Yep,
They're all just preliminary plats and major site plans. So those are
So-
the three items.
right. Did we have copies of the agenda in the back?
We did. I don't know how many.
We do, we
So-
can, go ahead.
Yeah, are there some still on the back table? Okay. Can we share a minute? Thank you, appreciate that. Got a lot to do, so please help us move along. Take a look at those very quickly, please.
Mr.
One,
Chair,
two, and three.
we could read those into the record if you would like us to.
Anybody else need help with what those items are? Raise a hand or let us know. Okay, are we good?
Seeing none?
Seeing none? Commissioners, I'm looking for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion
Please.
that consent agenda items F1, can I do them all at once?
Yes?
F2 and F3
Okay.
be accepted as written.
So I have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Very good.
We're the
Okay.
second people.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. We'll need to call the roll, please.
Member Aldrete,
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden,
Yes.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza. Aye. Chairman Benedict.
Yes. All right, very good. Next on our agenda,
We forgot Commissioner Hubbard.
Commissioner
I
Hubbard.
forgot.
We skipped Commissioner Hubbard.
Oh, my. Commissioner Hubbard. Yes.
there'll be times we could do, never mind, I've got to move on.
If you speak
We're in a
into
hurry.
your mic, I will know I missed you.
Very good. Okay, next on our agenda was old business. That's been pulled. So we are down to our new business items. Let me talk just a minute about our process. We'll introduce the item. The staff will go through their presentation about that item and explain to the commission and all of us the facts of it. And then commission will ask questions of the staff. Then we'll ask the applicant or their representative to come up, and they'll have a few minutes to address any issues and answer any questions that the commission has. Then I'll open the public portion of the meeting, and we'll invite any of you that wants to speak to come up. When you come up, please identify yourself and your address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes for each of you, and because we have so much on our agenda, we'll need to stick to that pretty rigorously. And please give us your comments. They are always helpful to us. We appreciate them. Please try not to repeat what somebody else has said or gone over. And when we can't answer questions specifically, we want to hear from you, and we want to hear your opinions, and we appreciate it. Appreciate you coming. So if you'll help us with that, that'll be great. Thank you. All right, first on the agenda, public hearing and request from Solvay Chemicals for 16 acres on Commerce Drive, DSA 22-00082, 22-0083, and 0034.
Good evening, Commissioners. Solvay Chemicals is requesting approval for a conditional use permit and a major site plan to allow for the production of electronics-grade hydrogen peroxide located at 32 South Commerce Drive. They're also requesting a preliminary plat to replat Lot 20 and 21 of the Central Arizona Commerce Park, primarily to provide dedication of right-of-way for Commerce Drive going north. You can see it highlighted on your screen. Overview of the site plan, brief overview of it. You can see up on the north and the south is where their access will be coming from. As part of the conditional use, they will be doing a 8-foot decorative block wall in the front of the property. You can see material storage tanks are in the middle of the property and the rear of the property next to the rail. You have the isotainer building, office plant, warehouse, and utility areas all located in the middle of the site, with the parking on the south side of the site and office on the south side as well. In looking at the conditional use, we look at the following criteria. All has been covered in your staff report. We're just going to concentrate on the key issue tonight, and that's that the proposed use will have no adverse effect on abutting property. The site is located in the Central Arizona Commerce Park and zoned I-2, which is general industrial. The zone district provides an appropriate area for this intended use. In conjunction with this resolution, staff is requesting the applicant meet the following condition, and that is to provide that 8-foot tall block wall along the street frontages that will help minimize any adverse visual impact from the use. In moving to the major site plan criteria, we cover all the criteria seen on your screen. All was in your staff report as well. We'll concentrate on a couple tonight. Again, as mentioned, the site's located within the Central Arizona Commerce Park. The uses located in this park have similar or more intense appearances and uses. Surrounding and nearby uses include an oil recycling facility, an asphalt facility, medical waste, salvage yard, and other semiconductor supplier operations. You can see the red properties are all existing conditional use permits, and we have yellow properties that are proposed conditional use permits in this area. So it does fit well within this area for this use. And then we're also going to talk about the existing and anticipated traffic and parking conditions. As mentioned before, in conjunction with the platting of the property, the applicant will be providing right-of-way for Commerce Drive. This will allow for the properties to the north and the existing properties in the Central Arizona Commerce Park to have 2 points of ingress and egress and ultimately improve traffic conditions in the area. Additionally, I wanted to mention that Solvay will be utilizing the adjacent rail for distribution to and from the facility. In regards to the preliminary plat, we mentioned that the primary purpose of the plat's to provide that right-of-way. You can see the plat on the screen, and then highlighted in yellow is the proposed right-of-way that they'll be providing. In regards to notification efforts, staff met or exceeded those requirements set out by the city code. They included posting of a sign. Notices were mailed to all owners within 300 feet of the site, and then a notice was also published in the newspaper. We did not receive any comments on this project. So in conclusion, staff recommends the commission approve the conditional use permit and associated resolution with the following conditions. And again, it's provide the 8-foot tall decorative block wall. Secondly, staff recommends the commission approve the major site plan with the following technical modifications. All were listed in your staff report, except for the bottom one, which was please show the access driveways with corner spacing and spacing between adjacent driveways in a graphic showing the type of driveway, and finalize the traffic impact analysis. And then the final one is staff recommends the commission approve a preliminary plat to provide necessary right-of-way for Commerce Drive with the following technical correction. That technical correction has since been completed.
All right.
Yeah, I have any questions?
Commissioners, any questions? Very good. Seeing none, would the applicant or their representative like to come forward and address the commission? Great. Please give us your name and address for the record.
Of course. My name is Todd Anderson. I live at 160 Millwood Lane in North Augusta, South Carolina, 29860. I'm joined here today with Ziad Haddad. Ziad and I both work for Solvay. He's the business director for our electronic grade chemicals, and I'm the project director for this electronic grade hydrogen peroxide plant. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to Mr. Horn and all the members of the city staff. Despite 30 years of professional experience, this is the first time I've had to secure industrial land and collaborate with the city in its greenfield development. And along the way, there were many, many questions, and at the other end of the phone or the other end of that email, there was always somebody that was ready, willing, and able to respond with a clear, concise answer. So that's definitely very much appreciated. And I know you have a full agenda, so I'll be brief and just say I encourage the commission to support the staff recommendations and grant us approval on the conditional use permit, the site plan, and the plat. Thank you very much.
Very good, thank you. And you're good with the conditions that were presented this evening?
We are. They make total sense to us.
Very good, thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so now I will open the public portion of the meeting. Would anybody from the public like to address this issue? Please come on up. Okay. Seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting and bring it back to the commission. Commissioners, what's your wish?
Just a comment, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
It appears that this is exactly what this Commerce Park was designed to do, to invite these type of businesses to come in and also go along with any of the requirements in the decorative walls, and company has agreed to that. And also the road improvements on Commerce Drive, so I think it looks like a good plan.
Good. Anybody else? You know what I'm looking for, Commissioner.
To the right.
Chairman, I'll make a motion.
Thank you very much.
If Joe would so kindly put up the staff recommendation on that board.
On the screen?
Oh, sure.
Oh, please put that up for the wording, please, sir.
Thank you. I said so kindly. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve conditional use permit and associated resolution DSA 22-00082 with the following conditions by staff.
Very good. I have a motion, and do I hear a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Okay,
I'll just pick one.
you pick one. There you go.
Go ahead.
And very good. We got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Aldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard? Yes. Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. Very good. On to the next one.
Chairman?
Commissioners.
I'll make a motion
Thank you.
to approve the major site plan DSA 22-00083 with the following technical modifications by staff.
Good.
Second.
Thank you. Peter, second. Any discussion? Very good. Please call the roll.
Member Aldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. One more.
And finally, Chairman, I'll make a motion
Please.
that Commission for approve DSA 23-00034, a preliminary plat for the necessary right-of-way for Commerce Drive with the following technical correction listed by staff.
Very good. Thank you. Got a motion?
Second.
Peter, second. Any discussion? Very good. Please call the roll.
Member Aldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. All right. Very good. Thank you. So that's passed. If I made my notes right, H2 has been pulled. So we are on to H3, a public hearing and consideration of a request by Hillary Luther for land use approvals, Cornerstone Circle and Casa Grande. Sam, all right.
He's hiding over here. I didn't even see him.
Yeah, buddy.
Hiding over here. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I have one item tonight. It is for the Keeling residents. It's a conditional use permit, DSA 23-00083. Hillary Luther is requesting a conditional use permit to allow a 2,212 square foot accessory structure at 382 East Cornerstone Circle, Casa Grande, Arizona, 85122. Here we have an overview of the site as well as the construction or the kind of the site plan for the accessory structure. It is highlighted there in the red. Here is the northeast elevation as well as the southwest elevation. The building in question on the northeast is this one here, and on the southwest, it is this one here. The Coyote Ranch planned area development description is silent on requirements for accessory structures. Accordingly, staff applied the standard residential accessory structure standards per City Code 1752-100. The points that I want to highlight are accessory structures, uses, and equipment greater than 6 feet but no greater than 12 feet in height shall have a 3-foot setback from the rear or side property lines. And letter G, the total building footprint area of all accessory structures located in the required rear yard setback shall be limited to no more than 25% of the area. Go ahead. The proposed structure meets the setback and rear yard coverage requirements. The need for the conditional use permit is because any accessory structure over 675 square feet requires a conditional use permit. Per 1768-120 of the City Code, the Commission in approving conditional use permit shall find as follows: that the site for the proposed use is adequate in size and topography to accommodate the use, and that all yard spaces, walls, and fences, parking, loading, landscaping are adequate to properly relate to the use with the land and uses in the vicinity. This lot and primary structure are sized appropriately and are of a character that will accommodate this accessory structure. That the site for the proposed use relates to streets and highways adequate in width and pavement type to carry the quantity and kind of traffic. There will not be any significant traffic generated from this proposed use. It is designed to be a private garage and workshop for personal enjoyment by the homeowner. That the proposed use will have no adverse effect upon the abutting property. Staff does not find that the accessory structure will have any adverse effect. The proposed use shall be in conformance with the general plan. The site is within the neighborhood's land use category in the general plan and conforms to the goals and land use designation. The conditions stated in the approval are deemed necessary to protect the public health, safety, and general welfare. The required conditions specifically relate to the accessory structure use and design to protect the public's health, safety, and welfare are presented in the conditional use permit resolution. Please see the proposed conditions as listed in staff recommendation section. Staff. All right, so public hearing notification efforts for this request meet and exceed those requirements set out by the City Code. They include posting in the newspaper, mailing postcards, and there was a sign for this project. There were no inquiries or comments. At this time, staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the conditional use permit and associated resolution DSA 23-00083 for an accessory structure subject to the following conditions. The maximum size for this accessory structure shall be no larger than the 2,212 square feet. The structure shall not be utilized nor improved as a second dwelling unit or as a home occupation unless otherwise specifically authorized by a separate approval process. The architectural style, building materials, roof materials, and color of the structure shall match and complement the existing home and garage. The structure shall not exceed the height of the principal building. There shall be no roof-mounted mechanical equipment on the structure. Any utilities running through the site or utilities that need to be relocated for development of the site must be placed underground, and development of the site shall be in accordance with all conditions of approval and any applicable city codes. All improvements are to be implemented prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Commissioners, questions? Doesn't look like. Would the applicant or their representative like to come forward and address the commission?
My name is Hillary Luther.
Bring it down.
Oh. My name is Hillary Luther. I'm with Associated Architects. I wanted to thank Sam for all your help in this, and I wanted to thank the commissioners. Are there any questions?
Questions? Very good. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Great. So, now we'll open the public portion of the meeting for this subject. Anybody like to address this issue? Yes, please come forward. Hi, give us your name and
I'm
address.
Brenda Jackson, and really this does not affect me at all.
Excellent.
But I just wanted to say one thing as we lead off here, and I probably should have said it at your last point of new business. I just want to make it very clear to everyone, the guests and the commissioners, that I often hear when there are no responses, we've put our signs out, we've sent notification. Very often, people do not know. They will ask you, I didn't know that. Well, there was a sign out on the corner. You were going 40 miles an hour. Didn't you see it? And I really think that we need the mindset. I'd almost like to strike that comment because I've been involved in so much of this that people don't know. We have to let them know. It's our responsibility. That's all I want to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address this issue, please? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting, bring it back to the commission.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Peters, yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that the conditional use permit and associated resolution to allow the structure under DSA-23-00083 be approved with the 7 conditions that were listed by staff.
Very good. Have a motion and a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Aldrete,
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden,
Yes.
Member Hubbard,
Yes.
Member Peters,
Aye.
Member Estrada,
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza,
Aye.
Chairman Benedict.
Yes. Very good, approved, thank you. Okay, where are we now? Yes, group. Now, gonna hold a public hearing, consider a forwarding recommendation to City Council of a request by EPS Group, major amendment to the Mountain View Ranch planned area development, allowing an increase in the number of lots, DSA 22-00283. Jacqueline, yeah.
All right, good evening, Commissioners. Next item is a request for a PAD amendment, major amendment to phases 3 and 4 of the Mountain View Ranch Plan Area Development. Site is approximately 23 acres and located at the northwest corner of this development along Colorado Street. Oops. The existing zoning for this area is low-density residential with minimum lots of 7,000 square feet. They're proposing for phases 3 and 4 to create smaller lots at 5,500 square feet and to increase the number of lots from 184 to 195, which is a total of 11 lots. Here's the PAD review criteria. The staff report covers the applicable criteria associated with this major amendment in the staff report. I will be covering the one highlighted here. So with regards to the zoning ordinance, this is subject to the 2021 PAD residential design standards and the 2022 amendment to the PAD design standards, which includes the additional criteria for single-family development to have a minimum lot width of 50 feet, 5 and 10 side setback requirements, minimum open space of 20%, and a minimum lot size of 5,500 square feet. There's also a minimum of 25% of the lots in each of the plats needs to be at least 6,500 square feet. However, there is an exception in the criteria to allow for the development of plats that are done in phases to allow the lot mix to be counted for the entire development. So here on the right tables show phases 1 and 2 have the higher areas and lot widths. Those are not being changed as part of this request. And then phases 3 and 4 will be going down to the 50 feet lot width and 5,500 square feet area. And then on this second table shows the change in number of lots. And this, with this configuration now, 49.7% of the lots in these phases will be over 6,500 square feet, meeting this exception. The site will also be platted and will be required to meet all the requirements of the PAD residential design standards, including housing product review, open space, and landscaping. So with regards to notification, all those have been met. I did receive 2 inquiries that were described in the staff report just asking about this request, and I did send them information on this as well as the agenda and staff report. Since the writing of the staff report, I did receive 1 email asking about drainage and whose responsibility in the Mountain View Ranch area, and I did include that as a handout. I did reply to the residents and said, let them know that this area is a little different in that there is a drainage basin located at Colorado and Rodeo that is actually owned by the city, and where the drainage tracks drain to this area and that is maintained by the city. However, the tracks within the development are maintained by the HOA, and that will be the same for these 2 phases as well. During plating, a drainage report would be required and go into detail during that plating phase. So with that, staff recommends forwarding a recommendation to City Council to approve the PAD major amendment to the Mountain View Ranch PAD to increase the number of lots with the following condition of approval, condition of record, excuse me. Happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Commissioners, questions? Jacqueline? He's thinking very hard over there.
Well, why the increase in lots is what I was going to ask the people when they came up. 6% increase?
Yeah, so the applicant may be to answer this a little more, but I believe it's to take advantage of Arizona Department of Water Resources allowed to increase the number of CAWs, certificates of assured water supply, if they're using reduced water.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Okay, none. With the applicant or their representative, please come on up. Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Hughes. I live at 945 South Farmer Avenue, Tempe, Arizona, 85281. And I work with EPS Group, who is bringing this request in front of you tonight. And first off, I'd like to thank Jacqueline for helping us through this process and for that presentation. And I'd like to thank you, the commission, for hearing us tonight. So and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. So I guess with following up on that one, the reason Jacqueline is correct, also with increasing the number of lots, it was our client was liking to reduce the size to meet more of the market demand at this time that we're seeing. And then, yes, and then as we increase the number of lots, as we're conforming with the new PAD residential guidelines that you all approved, I believe, last year, we are also increasing the amount of open space that was previously approved on the old Phase 3 and 4 final plat.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions? Commissioners? All right, seeing none, thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Very good. Going to open the public portion of this meeting. If anybody would like to come up and address this issue, please do so.
Good evening, I'm Jackie Fogelberg, 1208 East Avenida Kino, Casa Grande, 85122. I live adjacent to this area, and I'm curious to know what the impact of this new community will be on Colorado streets. I am assuming that entrance and exit to this community is only going to be off of Colorado, so I'm curious to know about expansion. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Hi, thanks.
Good evening. I'm Lisa Miller. I live at 1298 East Rodeo Road, right at the corner of Colorado and Rodeo. This pad plan will affect me. I know you've already decided upon this over a year ago. At that point in time, this seemed like a great idea. What I have noticed over this past year is the retention pond that you're referring to in this pad has already been full much of this year. If it is being maintained, I am unaware of anything that's been maintained there. There was water in that, quite significant levels of water in that retention pond. How do I know this? I live right across the street from it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to address this issue? Okay.
Is she talking about the park?
What is it, retention?
Yeah, where is the?
So, let me close the public portion of the meeting, bring it back to the commission. Commissioners have some questions.
So my question is, where's the retention pond in here?
I'm lost.
Yeah, I can't even.
So there's a couple of retention. The one that the last speaker was just speaking about is the one on the hard corner, I believe, of Rodeo and Colorado. You can see it's green. That's city-owned. It's also a joint use for a recreational playfield. So if that's holding water and not draining, that's the city's responsibility. Be our public works or our parks department that make, if it's not draining.
Okay, that was going to be my question.
The other retention ponds that we're talking about, in the new ones, Jacqueline, can you put that schematic up? So in this filing, though, all those new green areas will be new retention areas that will be HOA maintained. So the existing one is for the existing development. There's going to be new ones for this new subdivision that will be HOA developed and maintained.
Got it. Thank you.
Potentially helpful with the amount of water that gets to the pond that she was addressing?
Is the question how much water is supposed to be retained in that retention basin?
Well, I'm just
city-owned
thinking, I'm thinking about, okay, will these be helpful in retaining some of the water that
yes.
has gotten to?
It will.
Retain them
Yes,
rather than getting all the way
because
to
as
that
raw
well.
land today, although it does absorb some water, there's certainly runoff from that vacant area of the subdivision that does go in there. That water will be captured before it gets there under this new development. So yes, less water will go into the city-owned retention basin as a result of this development. That is true.
It'll
Very
divert
good.
across?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
No, it'll just, imagining it's gonna divert some of the water that way into the new HOA. Okay. Thank you, Paul.
That answered my question.
Yeah.
Okay. Other
Just-
questions? Yeah.
Chairman, just to address the lady's question about Colorado Street, so there's a half-street improvement where they're going to build half of Colorado
Thank you.
Street.
Yes, that will be part of the pre-plat and final plat. They do have access on Colorado as well as through the existing street network. I believe it's Avenida Hino as well, over to Potabom.
Okay, yeah, and looks like there's one entrance off of Colorado.
Yes.
So, the director have some comment?
Let me
Looks like it.
let me ask a question of Jacqueline. Jacqueline, how much of Colorado's built today? Just half street? Or more than half? Do you know?
I do not, I believe it's just half street from Rancho Grande in this area.
Okay. So this developer does have to finish the improvements to Colorado to full width, including any additional street pavement, sidewalks, and streetlights along their entire frontage to complete the full half street, because we build collector streets and arterials half street at a time, basically.
And Director Paul, we had a church property come in south of here, right? Wasn't there? That's also going to do a half street that makes the connection in between?
That's correct, yes. It's, I think probably that, it's the out parcel, James, right there on the screen? Yeah, the out parcel that you see, the notch out, yes.
Good. What, but just for all of our edification, the next steps in these developments, this project will come back before us. Just real quickly, the next steps that they'll have to go through, particularly so folks can hear and understand the more input that they can be and help that they can be for us.
Yes, so if this is approved by City Council, then next steps would be the preliminary plat and final plat. The preliminary plat would come back to Planning Commission for approval.
Okay.
And then City Council approves the final plat.
Very good. So there'll be some other times to address some of these issues as we go along, and we appreciate your input. Where are we at? Commissioners, anything else on this?
I got you.
Anything else? Okay, seeing none? I think I'm waiting for you.
Commissioner, I make a motion.
Thank you.
I want to forward a recommendation to City Council to approve the planned area development for DSA 2200283 with the following conditions of record by staff.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Aldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes.
No.
Next, we will hold a public hearing, consider forward a recommendation to City Council for the following requests from ABLA Studio. There's a list of them. Minor general plan, zone change, 3 zone changes. DSA 22-00262, 263, 264, and 265. Jacqueline, is that?
Right, Commissioners.
Unless I miss something.
So this is pretty complex, a couple of PADs, so I'm just going to give a little overview of the 4 requests, as well as the current PAD, and then I will go into additional detail on each PADs, and have a break to allow the Commissioners to ask me questions on those specific PADs, and then at the end, there'll be 4 separate recommendations. So with that, so the current Santa Cruz Crossing PAD area consists of single-family development, senior living, medium density, and commercial uses, and is approximately 97 acres. The site does not have certificate of assured water and cannot be developed as the single-family development is proposed. So the applicants have requested to break this into 3 separate PAD requests, starting with the first one located along Rodeo between Pueblo and Colorado. And it's approximately 30 acres. On the corner is the Village PAD, which is approximately 35 acres. And then the Enclave PAD is located south of that and includes approximately 31 acres. So the first request is, again, located at the southeast corner of Rodeo Road and Pueblo. It's approximately 30 acres and is a minor general plan amendment from neighborhoods to community corridor. In the neighborhoods land use category, medium-density residential is limited to 25 acres. So this amendment is necessary due to the applicant proposing 30 acres of medium-density residential. The existing Santa Cruz Crossing PAD consists of single-family development at approximately 3.3 dwelling units per acre, as well as medium-density residential development at approximately 10.6 acres, dwelling units per acre. And again, this single-family development does not have certificate of assured water supply, so we're looking at to develop an alternative and appropriate land uses for this area. So this PAD is requesting medium-density residential at approximately density of 7.64 dwelling units per acre. So moving in a little more on the minor general plan request. General plan amendments less than 50 acres, regardless of land use category, can be classified as a minor amendment. And this request, again, is 30 acres. And then minor amendments can be considered in conjunction with the zone change request. And here is the existing land use map as well as the proposed land use map. Here is the general plan review criteria. It is all outlined and described in detail in the staff report. I will be covering the 2 highlighted items. The first one is looking at the general plan guiding principles and how this proposal achieves those, and then as well as looking at the general plan goals and action steps. Staff finds the applicant's responses to these principles meet the criteria for the minor general plan amendment. Looking at PAD review criteria, again, the staff report goes into additional detail on all of these. I will be covering the highlighted ones in each, or in some way with each of the PADs. So again, looking at the PAD request, this is for medium-density residential and be subject to the PAD residential design standards. They're requesting a setback with a perimeter setback of 15 feet and adjacent to single-family residential at 25 feet with building heights at 28 feet. The proposed architectural design facing Rodeo will look like single-family homes as shown on elevations on the bottom of this. As you can see on the site plan, conceptual site plan, they are oriented so that they look like residential homes from Rodeo, and there will be additional landscaping as well. And then also, at the time of major site plan, they will be subject to the PAD guide, the residential design standards, as well as the zoning code. So looking at the plan on the existing and anticipated traffic and parking conditions, the site will be accessible from Pueblo and Colorado. There is no direct access from Rodeo. And as part of these plans, there will also be an additional collector road that will connect Pueblo to Treckle as well. One of the main items that is being carried forward as part of the Santa Cruz Crossing PAD are the improvements to Rodeo Road. This includes the frontage road. As you may be aware, there are houses that currently back onto Rodeo. Rodeo is a minor arterial, and it's currently unsafe with these driveways. So this proposal will create a frontage road for these residential homes to have access. There'll be a median, and then Rodeo Road will be fully built out between Colorado Street and Amarillo with this frontage road, and then completely to Treckle as well. And applicant did provide this cross-section. This shows the configuration, and then looking at the single-family residence to the proposed development, it's approximately 234 feet, and it shows the frontage road, the full build-out of Rodeo with the landscaping and setbacks as well. That first presentation on first two requests, are there any questions by the commissioners
No.
yet?
Chairman, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Jacqueline, is this property located in a floodplain, being so close to the Santa Cruz?
Portions of it will be along the wash. It will be addressed with the major site plan and drainage reports.
Yeah, I see the channel conveyance. I was just asking. This is Commissioner, do you want to ask this? I'll ask
Actually,
it on his behalf.
the only part that's in a mapped floodplain is right where the channel connects to Rodeo, that little area, but virtually, to Treckle, excuse me, virtually none of it's in mapped floodplain. There is a wash through there, but it's not a FEMA mapped floodplain.
Wow.
It's not?
It's not, no.
Does Naga and all those streets flood when it rains?
Okay, I think we're good, Commissioner, with that one, okay?
Okay,
And you want to
moving
go on? Yeah.
on to the next one, which is the Village PUD, which is proposing commercial and high-density residential. This request is located at the southeast corner of Rodeo and Treckle, as the current Santa Cruz Crossing PUD proposes commercial at the hard corner, assisted living along Rodeo and Pueblo, as well as patio homes just south of that. Per the PUD standards that was laid out, it noted that the assisted living would follow R3 zoning standards, and that would allow a 20-foot setback, with building height of up to 35 feet. And the patio homes would be per the R2 standards as well. The proposed Village PUD still has that commercial on the hard corner, and it's proposing high-density residential, and their conceptual site plan shows a density at 17.64 dwelling units per acre. So looking at the general plan in conformance to the city's general plan, this currently is in the community corridor land use and was designated per the 2030 general plan. This does not need a general plan amendment. And the community corridor allows for multifamily development up to 25 dwelling units per acre. Again, this is proposing less at 17.64. And it promotes mixed uses as well as commercial development. Here are some of the goals and action steps that Community Corridor promotes. While these requests checks all the boxes for Community Corridor, the applicant as well as staff understands that there may be some compatibility issues with the adjacent neighborhood to the north. And PUD does address some of that compatibility that I'll be covering the next few slides. So with regards to zoning ordinance and the residential area, again, they are proposing multifamily high-density residential. I want to note that per the PUD residential design standards, the setbacks for multifamily is limited to 28 feet within 50 feet, but however, after 50 feet, they could be as high as 35 as well. We did have a neighborhood meeting back in February, and based on comments, the applicant did adjust the setback requests for setback requirements for the apartment buildings so that buildings fronting Rodeo or allocated east-west would have a 50-foot setback, and fronting Rodeo north-south would have a 125-foot setback. And again, here is a layout of the street profile with the frontage road, and from the single-family residence to the apartment building is about 379 feet. So looking at the commercial portion of the site, the uses are majority permitted and conditionally permitted in the B2. In the staff report, I did note the technical correction for the applicant to update to a more consolidated list. Setback requests are 15 feet, and then adjacent to residential would be 20. 15 feet is one of the design standards we're looking at in the community corridor to push buildings closer to the street as well. And then building height is 35 feet. I did want to know, I forgot to mention on the traffic, each of the PAD will have TIAs and would be looked at in more detail during the major site plan. But frontage road is here as well, and we do have the condition that whichever one goes first, they would have to build the entire rodeo road improvements. So any questions on this PAD?
Doesn't look like it. Please proceed.
So the final PAD is the Enclave PAD, and they are proposing commercial and medium-density residential. Again, this site is just south of the southeast corner of Rodeo and Treckle. The current Santa Cruz Crossing PAD proposed commercial office as well as single-family residential development. However, again, due to the lack of certificate of assured water, this cannot be built out as single-family residential. So the proposed PAD is proposing, again, commercial on 10.94 acres, as well as medium-density residential just to the east of that, with a density at 6.99 dwelling units per acre. Looking at the zoning ordinance and PAD requirements, the commercial uses are looking at majority of permitted and conditional uses in the B2, as well as including self-storage in this use table. We did, again, have a technical correction to update the permitted uses, as well as to limit some of the uses as well, as include a conditional use permit for some of the uses within 100 feet to have a CUP, 100 feet of single-family residential development. Again, the setbacks requesting is 15 feet, and we did add the technical correction that when adjacent to residential development, there'll be a 25-foot setback, as well as additional landscaping buffer. Looking at the residential portion, again, they're requesting medium-density residential with permanent setbacks at 15 feet and adjacent to single-family residential at 25. Building height would be 28 feet. And some of the architectural detail that they're looking at is really looking at single-family home development with two-story structures and garages as well. Any questions on this PAD?
No.
Commissioners? No questions for staff?
I do have one
Please go.
question. The only, for this whole, all four of these sites, are you saying there are no cause or there's not enough cause?
Correct. No, none of the single-family development has certificates of assured water supply.
Okay. Any other questions for staff?
No.
All right, would the applicant or?
No, not done yet.
I'm trying to move along here, girl.
So looking at notification efforts, we did send out notices in review based on those comments.
I'm sorry.
We did have a neighborhood meeting in February. 5 residents did attend. Again, based on that, there were some conceptual layouts and additional setback requirements proposed in the PAD. Notices were sent out, and I forgot to update this slide, but notices for this public hearing were sent out to property owners within 500 feet. Again, there were a number of comments. You did receive attachments of those emails. Majority of their concerns include heights of the building, density, and traffic concerns along Rodeo. But again, with this development, they will be doing that frontage road and pushing that traffic off of, or moving the traffic south so that they will not be backing onto a minor arterial road. And then since writing the report, I did receive a petition that you received a handout of with 49 signatures as well. So with that, happy to answer any other questions or comments.
Commissioners, any more questions? All right, now would the representative or applicant please come and address the commission?
Evening. Tom Durant, ABLA, 22617 South 220th Street, Queen Creek, Arizona.
Thank you. Very good.
Thank you, all of you, for your time. Thank you, Jacqueline and staff, for all of your efforts. As she did mention, we did have a neighborhood meeting. We talked with the 5 members that did come to the meeting. We made some adjustments to the site plan. We'll continue to work with them when we go through the next process of the site plan submittal.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions?
Good job.
All right. All right, thank you very much. Now I'd like to open the public portion of the meeting for this subject or these 4 subjects, I guess. Anybody from the public like to address this issue, please come forward.
Gloria Johnson Story, 1245 East Laurel Drive and 1180 East Rodeo Road since the 70s. I do have a petition that I'm hoping all of you have a copy because I do stand opposed to this zoning change and submitted plan for development. And I gathered 3 pages with a friend to oppose this plan on both sides of the development in Desert Valley and in Rancho Grande. I do want to thank Jacqueline Sarnowski, Sam Leonard, Paul Tice, Michelle Hall, all with the City Planning and Development, Jonathan Bastinelli with Matrix Equities, and Thomas Durant of ABLA Studios, because they listened to my concerns, which will continue, and they went over a whole bunch of details with me, which I'm going to share and talk fast. Okay, here are 3 pages of the petition. Everyone has one, right? Okay. Our major concerns are density, water drainage, specifically on Pueblo Drive, which is a raging river when it rains, and the lack of traffic infrastructure and traffic dangers and problems that it creates. And it does have an adverse effect on our adjoining property and existing Casa Grande residents. There are already 4 large apartment projects under construction in Casa Grande, 3 on Treckle Road with 200, 174, and 216 apartment units, totaling 590, and 1 at Camino Mercado with 284 apartments, a total of 874 new apartment units under construction. There's also a large housing project going on at the end of Rodeo Road at Peart on the other side of our area. There are no water certificates available. So these are all rentals using our groundwater. And I know everyone says we have a lot of groundwater, but I always think of sinkholes. And I just saw that Phoenix just raised their water rates and put restrictions on their water usage. The proposed development on Treckle and Rodeo consists of 432 apartments, which is almost half the total apartment units in the other 4 projects I mentioned. 165 2-story family homes and 230 condo townhouses connected 3 or 4 in a grouping. Imagine 2,000 people standing on 2 city blocks between Treckle and Colorado and their vehicles. With the 3 apartment complexes being built on Treckle Road, there will be 3 large 2- and 3-story apartment complexes within 1 mile on Treckle Road. Please help us. Time to take a look on the density and building being solid with rentals for an area already taxed with traffic. Think of the middle school and the elementary school on Courtson Road. It's the middle of those apartments. Back to Rodeo Road and Treckle with their traffic situation. Rodeo Road is 2 lanes. Treckle Road turns into 2 lanes at Rodeo Road. We have one of our 2 high schools half a mile north and a fast-developing and busy commercial complex to the northwest of Treckle Road and Rodeo Road. This proposed development is between 2 residential subdivisions. The other apartments under construction face Treckle Road and commercial properties. We are residential both sides. Camino Mercado is surrounded by fairly vacant land at this time. Rancho Grande, oh no! Oh no!
Thank you.
I have a lot more and I timed this, I just didn't talk fast enough.
Thank you.
Can I have just 2 more minutes? 1 more minute?
If I finish early, I'll finish reading it. I promise you, Gloria, please.
Can I just finish it?
I want to be fair to everybody. How do I do that?
Okay. I'll let Lisa take over.
Well, Gloria, how long do you have? How much more you got?
Just a page and a half.
What did you just read?
Can that's why I wrote it, so I could read it fast.
What did you just read? How much of what you just read was it?
Okay, anyway, Rancho Grande and Desert Valley should not be facing a large rental subdivision of 3-story apartment buildings, 18 of them in all, 165 2-story homes and 230 condo townhouses. The planned development has a few washes in it that are crucial to the runoff. Pueblo is one of them. It floods when it rains. And another thing of note, we live in the desert. There are no blending buildings with the desert colors to preserve the appearance. I love my desert. The proposed apartments, all 18 3-story barrack-style buildings are white. Why white? The buildings do not blend in the desert. Time to stop, catch our breath, think of your existing citizens. As noted in your general plan to encourage the development of vacant land that already has a lot of the infrastructure. We will work with the city and we will work with any developer. Just give us a chance to come forward. Thank you. Thank you for your indulgence.
Good job, Gloria.
Hey, commissioners. I can fix this so you can have a typed copy, too.
Anybody else?
I am not anywhere near as formally prepared as Gloria was. My name is Lisa Miller. I live at 1298 East Rodeo Road, as stated earlier. I ask that you take your time on this. The lack of water assurances should be warning enough that this is not appropriate use for this area. I too had a 30-year plan. My 30-year plan included aging in my home at Colorado and Rodeo. This makes it extremely difficult for my husband and I to do that. Ms. Garza, you mentioned floodplain. While FEMA does not yet recognize it, I do know that from having grown up near rivers and bayous my entire life in Indiana, that once you start building near it and you start pushing water, you will cause flooding. As I mentioned, that retention pond was full much of the earlier part of this year. I realized we had a very rainy winter, very wet one, unusual. However, cement and sidewalks, as nice as they look, do not absorb water. This plan offers nothing positive to the current residents along Rodeo Road and the surrounding area. The number of new homes proposed is higher than all of Rancho Grande, El Escanada, and Santa Rosa, inside of a much smaller footprint. I did receive relatively quick, this is a bright note, I did receive relatively quick responses from everyone from the city as well as from the developers. I did ask for a street view from the perspective of my house. I have yet to receive that. When the first proposal was made a few years ago, we were given that view from our home, and that made me feel much more comfortable. That is not the view from my home, that is from some imaginary perspective on the street. I don't know how you would feel about having 6 lanes of traffic 200 feet in front of your property, but I have a feeling it would make you extremely uncomfortable, even with a frontage road. So I'm not convinced that the frontage road is going to help my husband and I. Again, I live right at the corner of Colorado and Rodeo. Where's that frontage road going to go? And if we're going to expand Rodeo to another plot, how's that going to work for me to even get out of either the side of my house or the front of my house? Also, my husband brought up the fact today, garbage cans. Where are we going to put our garbage cans? We have street garbage pickup. Multiple developments in the area are already causing traffic issues, and I'm going to run out of time. Population increases also affect our schools. They already are affecting our schools. You need to give us time. I'm asking you to take your time on this decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Anybody else from the public like to address this issue?
Hello, my name is Nancy Wood. I live at 513 East Veckle Road, Casa Grande, Arizona. And though I'm not exactly right by this neighborhood, one of my concerns is what I see for the density of this is how they're going to deal with the water. Casa Grande has a lot of issues with flooding and water control. And you know, I would back up the concerns of the residents that live in this area that water runoff is a real big issue, and I don't see a real good plan with retention basins and how they're going to control their water. I don't believe that anything where they're using controls for drainage areas, if they use restrictive materials that cement and things like that, we need to look at providing good water drainage in the city where you have good retention, to use water harvesting so that we use the water for vegetation and infrastructure around and not the kind of density I see that this is. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address this issue? Please come on up.
Got in a little late.
That's
My
no
name
problem.
is Mike Seacats. I live on the edge of Pueblo and Rodeo also, and the main drainage goes right through there. During the rains, I had about 2 inches of water to go, and my house would have been flooded many times. So I think that's a concern. It's real. When I first saw this, I couldn't believe it. I mean, high density in this area, I couldn't even think about what to do with the road there, how that's going to affect the people on Rodeo. Having people zipping by at 60 miles an hour, it's like a racetrack through there half the time. And it's going to be backed up stop signs. I remember somebody saying, well, they may put a stoplight at Rodeo. I said, a stoplight? Really? A traffic light there? That seems like not enough. I mean, I really haven't kept up on this. My wife is in the hospital. But I definitely am opposed to this plan as is. Maybe it can be fixed, I don't know. we really need to think about congestion. And I'm not sure what the definition of community corridor is. I didn't ever think a corridor would look like this. When I hear something that says community corridor, I think of pathways and landscaping and things like that. I don't think of high density. So something's amiss here, and I'm glad I came because I met a few people here. I thought I was the only person who would receive this, and I didn't know what to do. So I'm glad. I just want to say that I am opposed to this as it stands. I'm not opposed to progress. We just need to make sure it looks right and it is right for the community. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Anybody else like to address this issue?
Hi, I'm Craig Miller. I live on Rodeo Road. I've lived there. I've owned the house for 20 years. Arterial, what was that word you used? It was just a minor road, rodeo. Somebody had their name for it.
Minor arterial.
Minor arterial.
Yeah, it's
not
minor.
That's
a
fireman in the house? 2 times a day, the fire department on McCartney over there uses Rodeo Road, and it's like their little, the bat cave, how they get out of there. And you're going to cause a bunch of fires. You put this up.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address this issue? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public portion of the meeting, bring it back to the commissioners.
Jacqueline, can you go back to that first, that overall? Mr. Chair, so I'm assuming that the public hearing you just held was for all 3 of the PADs?
That was my assumption, yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Unless commission wants to do something, commissioners
Well,
want to do something.
and that's okay. I know the issues are a little different between them, like, the enclave to the south is certainly different than the commercial or the high density adjacent to Rodeo. But I guess when you vote, you just sort of have to clarify that in your mind, what comments might really be applicable to which of these 3 PADs, but you're certainly going to have to vote on them separate. Okay, so when you do motions
Yes.
and votes, we'll have to do those separately.
Yes, sir. Commissioners, questions, comments?
Can we go back to the arterial road on Rodeo? Where they're having the frontage portion?
This one okay, or?
Yeah. So that's gonna be, like, there's gonna be a median in the middle, and then on the north side, it'll just be 1 lane or 2 lanes?
Jacqueline, could you just go to the aerial that behind this? So this is probably the best graphic to think about.
Okay.
So that's existing Rodeo. You can see it's one lane in each direction and a median center turn lane, right?
Mhm.
So the frontage road is going to be like the north through lane and the median, the current median. So that'll be the frontage road, and then there'll be
2 lanes, right?
2 lanes,
2
one in
lanes.
each direction.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
So I was thinking.
So basically, then there'll be a median where the eastbound through lane is, and then 4 more lanes will be done south of that. So there'll be 4 lanes added to what you see here, and the one through lane here will be basically a median with a sidewalk on it.
So
So
with-
all these homes will have their own road to to back out into, be very quiet, low-traffic
Yeah, it's fine.
road, and then the through traffic will, because the through traffic will go in the new road. The thing to understand is that Rodeo Road is going to be 4 lanes, no matter if this development happens or not, because that's the city plan.
what I
So we're just trying to make it safer for
That's
all
what I
these
thought.
residents.
Okay, I thought it was 4 lanes, I was just trying to make sure. So is there going to be a sidewalk for these people?
There will be a sidewalk, in the median and between the frontage road and the new rodeo, and there'll be a sidewalk on the south side of the new rodeo.
Okay.
And Jacqueline, is there a sidewalk currently? I can't see in that photo.
No, there is no sidewalk.
Right, so the one sidewalk will be in the median, the new median. So yes, there will be a sidewalk essentially on both sides of the new
Of
rodeo.
each side, okay.
Yes.
So it will be safer for the rodeo, people who live on rodeo?
It will be much safer.
No.
No, the median's
No.
on the
No,
north
the
side.
median's going to be, no.
Median's on the north side, the frontage road, the,
In the median.
North side.
on the north,
Paul,
so,
you said
It's on the north side of the median, but the median is south of the frontage road. I think that's the confusion. So yes. The sidewalk will be in the north side of the median. That's correct.
Jacqueline, can you show the cross-section?
This one?
Yeah.
right, and that frontage road is not a through road. What I would call a through road. You can't,
It will have access to Pueblo, Colorado, and
Amarillo.
Amarillo.
Yeah.
Yes, only.
So,
and Rodeo Road will shift to the south.
Yeah.
Through traffic will all shift to the south by those 2 lanes. And Rodeo Road, basically, as it is right now, will not be a through road. It'll just be local access only.
You know, can you just bring that graphic back up, Jacqueline? One more, right there. So you can see on the right side of that graphic how rodeo is curving back to the north. That's where it's going back to its existing alignment. So that, you're right, Mr. Chair, it's gonna go south considerably as it leaves Treckle. After it passes Colorado, as you can see on the graphic. So maybe a next step explanation would be helpful too, because we're at the zoning stage here, right? So the next step is going to be major site plans, which will include where this road has actually already been specifically engineered. We've seen the engineering drawings, but they'll be presented with the preliminary plat and/or the major site plan if this zoning is approved before any development moves forward. They'll be presented at a future public hearing for the preliminary plat or the major site plan.
Paul, the development is going to be required to do all of these improvements, right? It's not going to be reliant on the city public works?
The developer is required as a zoning condition to make those improvements. That is correct. Now, it's part of the original PAD, the Santa Cruz Crossing PAD, I believe it was. However, because these are improvements much greater than a normal developer would be required, because a normal developer would just be required in this scenario to add like another through lane, 2 through lanes to rodeo and a sidewalk, but not the frontage road. So the additional cost that this developer is going to incur by making the frontage road improvements and the additional roadway improvements beyond what the standard requirement is under our code, they will be granted transportation impact fee offsets to make them whole. So essentially, they will get credits that they can use against transportation impact fees that are equal to the additional costs they incur beyond the normal development cost. No, these are all actually developer fees that are paid to the city, so there's no tax dollars involved.
There are fees assessed to
That's
the
right.
development at the time of building permit.
Exactly.
Questions, comments, commissioners?
I mean, I can sympathize with the water concerns. However, we are not the regulator of assured water. Sadly, it's the state, and here lies the
The issue.
loophole, unfortunately. But
Mhm.
it's not up to us.
Certainly my sense watching, going down Rodeo Road, we've got to do something with that stretch, with where where we're adding that extra lane and shifting Rodeo Road to the south, and something's got to be done there, because backing out onto the Rodeo Road is,
Insane.
it's, has to be scary.
Yeah.
Well, it takes me back to Treckle between McMurray and Florence.
They're right.
You have a bunch of residents doing the exact same situation. They have done it for 50-plus years.
Frontage road.
There isn't. So this, I feel like, is a great solution to that.
Well, and to the point, I mean, we're not directly voting on that solution yet.
Correct.
Right.
Those votes come up in the next steps. This is adjusting the planned area development. It's so that they can proceed with presenting their plans to us. And, so, commissioners, what is your desires? Please start with 5A.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Sir?
Now, this is going to be in 4 different,
Correct. Need to do one at a time?
okay.
Do you, I just realized I didn't go through all the recommendations. Would you like me to read them off, or?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
Okay.
So as part of the Innovations Villa Minor General Plan Amendment and PAD request, the first recommendation to City Council is to approve the Minor General Plan Amendment to amend the land use category from neighborhoods community corridor for approximately 30.1 acres located at the southeast corner of Rodeo Road and Pueblo Road. The second recommendation is to City Council to approve the zone change request from PAD medium density and low density residential development to PAD for medium density for the Innovation Villas at Colorado Street, PAD, again located at the southeast corner of Rodeo Road and Pueblo, with the following technical corrections and conditions of approval. This is an additional technical correction, and it's just to add build-to-rent to the permitted uses table, which is allowable medium-density use as part of the residential design standards. And then conditions of approval include that all of the roadway improvements for Rodeo Road shall be developed in the first phase with either the Innovation Villas, Rodeo, or Colorado PAD, or the Village PAD, whichever development develops first.
So, Jack, I'd like to suggest that we stop, since we're addressing these one at a time.
Okay.
Let's not read let's read them at the time that it's before us, and if the commissioners would please address, again, the first one. With
Okay.
5A and.
I started the motion, and I will continue with the motion.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
And I would like to make a motion that we consider forwarding a recommendation to the City Council for the first DSA-22 2022-00262, the minor general plan amendment, and the condition, with the conditions of approval as listed by staff.
I second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, please call the roll.
Member Aldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
This is not the first, development that's come before us that has controversy and feelings on both sides, so, and it's not going to be the last. I'd say aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. All right, commissioners. Next,
Okay, next.
00263. Zone change, which, could you go back, just a second, could you go back to the map and so that we're physically see which ones we're voting on?
Ooh, good idea.
Thank you. It's a little confusing.
Because there's three separate ones that deal with three separate pieces. Okay, this is the one, 263?
Third one.
Yeah, this is the one that has medium-density residential, it's 30 acres. It's the, can you show them the elevation of what those look like? Just so they can visualize it. There you go. So that's what you're voting on with this one right here, that PAD.
6-3.
And it's up against,
Yes, it's located between Pueblo and Colorado alignments.
gotcha. Okay, clear to everybody?
Okay. So this is a recommendation to forward.
Hang on, we'll get to
a
the slide there for you.
Recommendation to the city council for the zone change, DSA-22-00-263.
Okay, I have a motion to approve 00263, and I have a second.
Would that be with the conditions and technical changes as noted by staff?
Thank you.
Correct, with the conditions and the technical changes.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Member Aldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. Okay, the next one, can you show us where 264?
Yes, so this request is at the southeast corner of Truckle and Rodeo. And the recommendation is forward a recommendation to City Council to approve the zone change request from PAD Commercial Senior Living and Medium Density Residential to PAD for Commercial and High Density Developments for the Village PAD, again located at the southeast corner of Rodeo and Truckle, with the following technical corrections and conditions of approval.
Okay,
Go ahead, Rick.
Yep. Commissioners?
okay, I'll continue with that.
Very good.
Motion to forward a recommendation to the city council for the request for zone change listed on DSA-22-00264 with the technical corrections and conditions of approval as listed by staff.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion?
I'd just like to say, I think high density is great, and it really helps the city achieve its goals as far as public transit. The denser we are, the better we can provide public transit, the better that public transit is funded. Right now, it wouldn't make much sense to run a bus line down Treckle, just because there really isn't that density there. by increasing our density throughout the city, especially on infill sites like this site, it helps achieve a lot of the goals of the general plan and improves the quality of life for a lot of the residents throughout Casa Grande. And so that's where I really think this is a great project, and I'm glad to see more high density coming in.
I concur.
Thank you. Well said. Good comments. Any other comments? Okay. Yep.
Member Aldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yeah, I think, we're going, the density that was already approved is a lot for us country kids. This sure helps with the solutions to, like I said, to me, I'm very afraid of Rodeo Road, and I think it helps with the solution. So I'll be voting, with that, I'm voting aye. All right, commissioners, next.
Okay, continuing on. I'd like to consider forwarding a recommendation to the city council for the zone change request for the PAD, office commercial and low density, to PAD for commercial and medium density, DSA-22-00265, with the conditions and recommendations listed by staff.
Second.
All right, we have a motion second. Yeah, can you be sure we know where we're at? Do we know
Go back
where,
there.
which piece we're voting on, commissioners?
Is it the
One left.
64.
There you go.
Yeah, that one.
All the way to the south.
Yes. Understood.
Clear? Very good.
Yes, sir.
Clear.
Any other discussion on the motion? Let's call the roll.
Member Aldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
Yes.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
Aye.
Chairman Benedict?
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for all of your comments. Thank you for the way you addressed them. It's greatly appreciated. Please stay involved with the process. There's more steps to go, and hopefully can more address the issues that we're all concerned about. So, I think it's time for a 5-minute break.
Second.
Second.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Oh, well, thank you. call the meeting back to order, please.
What are we on?
I show H6.
All right,
Anybody
then.
disagrees, please let me know.
Yep.
All right, very good. Next, we will have a public hearing for a request from Jack Gilmore on behalf of Newcastle Dome Limited Partnerships, LLP, a major plan amendment to the Casa Grande 2030 General Plan, DSA 220277.
Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission, items H6 and H7 are related applications, and so my intention, if it's okay by you, is to give a presentation that covers both items, and then as you see fit, you can have separate discussions and, of course, separate votes on them.
I'm good with it.
So items H6 and H7 are pertaining to Nexus. I'll be discussing the major general plan amendment as well as their requested zone change from urban ranch to planned area development. So the first request pertains to the west 162.5 acres of a 318-acre parcel located at the northeast corner of Cottonwood and Hennis. It's currently within the neighborhood's land use category, and the amendment would revise the west half of that parcel to be the same as the east half of the parcel, which is commerce and business. The second request that I'm going to discuss tonight is a zone change for this area. It's currently in an urban ranch zone, and the requested zone district is a planned area development that would apply to all of the acreage. And it is to accommodate a light industrial business park that also has a combination of commercial uses. Firstly, though, I'm going to dive into the requested major general plan amendment to the 2030 general plan. So the current land use designation of this site is in fact neighborhoods. And as you can see, there's neighborhoods designation to the north and to the west. There's commerce and business that lies to the east. And then beyond I-10 is a different general plan category, large mixed use. To the south of the site is community corridor. So there's kind of a merging of different general plan designations in this area. Neighborhoods is a general plan category that identifies a list of appropriate land uses. So what's considered appropriate there by the current general plan designation is low density residential primarily, and neighborhood scale office and commercial uses, public facilities, religious institutions. And although it is primarily for low-density residential, the general plan also allows neighborhoods to have some limited amounts of medium and high-density development, but it's tied to a limitation of acreage sizes for those developments. And then there's also a list of appropriate zoning designations, and as you could see, it's primarily to accommodate residential. There's a little bit of opportunity for office and business zoning. Within the neighborhood's general plan category, there are specific development standards for both non-residential and residential development. And when we look at this 162.5 acres being proposed to go from neighborhoods to commerce and business, we find there's a 92-acre sized problem with the current neighborhoods designation. And I'll describe what I mean by that in a moment. So when we look at the non-residential development standards for neighborhoods, it says that single commercial sites of up to 30 acres shall be allowed. And of course, it would have to be designed to be appropriate in scale. And then when we go down into the residential design standards, the first bullet says single-family developments with homes on individual lots are allowed up to a density of 4.5 dwelling units per acre. Well, that's not really applicable here, which is why I've struck it out, because this area does not have certificates of assured water supply, which basically means that the parcel as it sits cannot be divided into more than 5 parcels. And it would be that type of parceling that you would normally find with a single-family residential development. So that's not really an option here for that use. So that leaves the opportunity to use that 162 acres for medium and high-density development. However, for medium-density development, it's limited to a site size of 25 acres, and for high-density development, it leaves a site size of 20 acres. So the issue is with that 162 acres of property, if you were to program it with the maximum 30 acres of commercial and the maximum of 40 acres, or 45 acres rather, for medium and high-density residential uses, you're left with 92 acres left over of that site without the ability to market or use it. So the opportunity to put it into a general plan category that doesn't rely as heavily on site size limitations and single-family residential uses is an opportunity here to consider, so that there's some additional development options for that parcel. So the designation that's proposed is commerce and business. And what commerce and business is generally intended for in our general plan is for a mixture of, as the name suggests, commercial uses. As you go down the list of what's considered appropriate, it does accommodate multifamily residential. In the commerce and business category, it doesn't limit multifamily to a site size, and it can have a density between 10 and 45 dwelling units per acre. Although that's not what's proposed with this PAD that's also accompanying the general plan amendment request. What the PAD zoning is proposing is a mixture of commercial, business park, light manufacturing, and warehousing uses, which are all considered appropriate per our general plan category. And then there's a list of appropriate base zonings that are supportable, assuming that the general plan is in the commerce and business category. And that does include the I-1, which is a garden and light industrial zone, which is not what is being requested here. Rather, a PAD zone is being requested, and that's a planned area development. And basically, a PAD is a customized zone district where you're not beholden to the rigidity of a traditional zone district where it's just one block of uses and development standards. You get to propose a land use plan or a mixture of uses so long as it's compliant with the general plan designation. Now, in looking at the commerce and business categories description of general development standards, it does state that development should be designed to accommodate regional traffic, particularly commercial and light industrial developments. It also goes on to say that traditional big box developments or other large commercial centers, and in this case you could consider the scale of some of the uses proposed in the PAD being potentially spec buildings or distribution or warehousing. It sort of fits into that mold of a big box in terms of the scale. It does talk about that type of development being encouraged to feature architectural design concepts to mitigate those external impacts that are a result of that type of development. So there's a real opportunity to have not only the request to amend the general plan designation in front of you, but the requested zoning at the same time, so that we can see if the zoning does address what's intended for these general development standards. And of course, even beyond the zoning, there's additional opportunity such as at the time of major site plan approval, where we get into some more specifics. But it goes on to state that light industrial and office uses are highly encouraged along freeway corridors. And what has drawn the applicant to request a general plan amendment to the site, and why staff feels that the general plan amendment's appropriate, is because it does check a lot of those boxes. It is in a location designed to accommodate regional traffic. The reason being is that both Hennis and Cottonwood are designated as principal arterial roads. They're not currently built to that principal arterial status, but it exists there and for the potential enhancement of that roadway designation, and it is adjacent to I-10. This is the map showing the overall planned circulation for the area. The streets that are highlighted in yellow are those roads that are designated to be principal arterial roads, and those are designed to carry a regional level of traffic at full build-out. A principal arterial road is designed to ultimately be 3 lanes in each direction with the center median. As you can see, per our planned street network, Hennis would continue north of Cottonwood, and we do have a development that was recently recommended for approval by Planning Commission last month, Vista Ranch, highlighted in yellow above the site, that went to City Council actually on Monday, and they did vote to approve that. So with the development of that Vista Ranch neighborhood, it would aid in the extension of Hennis up to Courtson. And of course, there is also a planned interchange at the I-10 Courtson area. The streets that are highlighted in white are collector roads. Not all of them have been built, and not all of them have been designed to their full build out, but that will also contribute to the overall circulation. But this is helpful to see that on both sides of I-10, 1 mile south and north of Cottonwood, is a planned network of both collector and principal arterial roads. The other aspect that I want to talk about is that scaling of having big box or large scale developments being designed to be compatible. So oftentimes principal arterial roads are used to segregate different land uses. This is a street view image of the Chandler area near the Chandler Air Park along Gilbert Road near Queen Creek. So what's a little different about this example is there's really not immediate adjacency to an interstate. 202 is fairly close, but it is not quite exactly analogous. But why I'm wanting to show you this is you can see that on the left, traffic going northbound in the picture is, because the image is looking south, to the left, you see single-family residential homes that their backyards are parallel to their version of a principal arterial, 3 lanes in each direction. And then on the right, the southbound traffic is, of course, abutting the Chandler Air Park that has a mixture of warehousing, spec buildings, and light industrial uses. Here's another picture of the same area. There's a FedEx complex that you see on the right, and then you have a 6-lane road and then a single-family development on the other side. And how that functions and why a principal arterial is often used to segregate land uses is because you do have that separation. You do have the ability to carry traffic when it's at full build-out, and then you also have the landscaping that's provided on both sides of the road and within the center. When looking at the criteria necessary to contemplate a general plan amendment, there's 7 that have to be addressed. And the staff report goes into each of these in greater detail. I do want to talk about the highlighted items more specifically. The first one is how the general plan's guiding principles are addressed. So what the guiding principles of the general plan are 11 specific principles, and there's 2 specific ones that are particularly addressed, which is community growth should be driven by industrial, office, professional services, research and development, all uses proposed in the accompanying PAD. And then also, one of the guiding principles is support and strengthen Casa Grande's position as the industrial and commerce center of Pinal County. And again, one of the reasons why this site has been selected is because of its adjacency to I-10 and the planned roadway network in the area, providing an interchange at I-10 in Florence and a future interchange at I-10 in Cortson. This site is sort of well poised for a central location, being that Casa Grande is in between Tucson and Phoenix, and then with access to the 8, we also are an east-west center when you think about the fact that we're more or less equidistant between El Paso and San Diego. The other criteria of the general plan I want to talk about is how the general plan goals and or action steps are achieved by the proposed amendment. So there's 2 particular goals in the general plan that are applicable. One is develop economically competitive regional centers of commercial activity. This is done by promoting a wider range of uses, including blended commercial and industrial sites like the accompanying zoning proposes, and also improving site design in commercial and industrial locations. So this particular goal and its associated action steps are more critical or more applicable when we dive into the zoning and then even again at the major site plan level, as we will, as the PAD does speak to scale and architecture, and then more specifically at the time of major site plan, we would see elevations, and then Planning Commission would have the opportunity to determine whether the elevations proposed are appropriate or adequate based on compatibility of the surrounding area. So with regarding the notification process, we followed that which is required by code. I do want to point out that for major general plan amendments, state statutes require 2 Planning Commission hearings at 2 separate locations. So the first of the 2 Planning Commission hearings have already occurred. We had met last Thursday. Time flew because I want to say it felt like 3 weeks ago, but I think it was literally last Thursday. And they have to be held at 2 different venues. So we had met at the Casa Grande Rec Center with you all. And that was the first of 2 hearings. Tonight is the second of 2 hearings. And of course, it would ultimately go on to council. But prior to the first hearing, we had received 2 comments. And both had expressed concerns regarding the amount of traffic and the appropriateness, or the concerns about the appropriateness of this at the location that's proposed. And then specifically at the hearing held last week, there was a resident of Palm Creek who attended, Bobby Seabolt. She had wanted to be here this evening, however, she had made other plans to be away, but she did speak at last week's Planning Commission hearing with concerns, primarily dealing with traffic, the lack of appropriateness. She has followed up with written correspondence, which has been included in your packets, but she did outline a list of concerns as to why this proposal is not compatible with the area. The second item that I'm covering tonight is the request for a zone change. So the property is currently zoned urban ranch, which is designed to accommodate very low-density residential and agricultural uses. You can have one house and one lot that's sized no smaller than 1.25 acres. And the zone change would change it to the Nexus Planned Area Development Zone. Now, when we look at what the surrounding zone districts are, we have the Vista Ranch development to the north, which I talked about on a previous slide that recently received city council approval. The Vista Ranch neighborhood primarily accommodates single-family development. However, there's a large area for multifamily towards the east side of the PAD, and then about 26 acres of commercial along Courtson. To the west is land owned by the state that's currently zoned urban ranch. It also does not have certificates of assured water supply. It likely, should it develop, be developed either for more schools, like Vista Grande sits south of Cottonwood, that's also owned by the state, or other types of campuses. And then there is Palm Creek that sits to the south, which is a manufactured home resort. And to the east of Palm Creek is Casablanca, which was also in front of you recently, and you had recommended approval of a zone change there. It is currently urban ranch, and it's scheduled for council consideration to the Casablanca PAD, which proposes medium density residential next to Palm Creek. And that area that is in multifamily actually was within the commerce and business category, the same category that this general plan is proposing the 162.5 acres go into. But it's removing the commerce and business category and putting it into the same general plan category as Palm Creek so that it can be developed for medium density uses. And then also within that Casablanca PAD is a mixture of light industrial and commercial. I do want to point out that on the other side of I-10 is a planned area development zone known as Casa Grande Commons that's entitled for industrial, commercial, and high-density multifamily as well. And that's all within that large mixed-use general plan category. The PAD does provide a conceptual layout. This does not approve for specific siting of buildings. That would be done at the time of major site plan consideration. And it would be very likely that there'll be multiple major site plan considerations as each building goes to develop within this acreage. And there's a list of permitted uses proposed in this PAD. As you can see towards the top, it's more commercial related, but that's also just because conveniently it's alphabetical. But then as you go towards the bottom, you can see that also proposed is uses such as manufacturing, light production, processing, and indoor storage of inventory, and warehousing and distribution. It is also imparting particular development standards that keep in mind greater setbacks along arterials where the development will be in greater view of the public, as well as a greater setback from its north property line as it borders Vista Ranch. They are proposing a maximum height of 65 feet. And I'll walk through the setbacks on an upcoming slide. So, as a result of this request to go from commerce and business, to go from neighborhoods to commerce and business, and to go from urban ranch to planned area development, staff's received correspondence from 13 different contacts expressing concern about the proposed general plan amendment and zone change. And I wanted to just kind of bullet point for you what those general concerns were. However, all of their comments have been provided to you. Many made it after the publication of the staff report, so they've been since emailed to you and then handed out to you at the beginning of the meeting. But the primary concerns were the traffic congestion that this project is going to result, particularly due to the fact of the large number of distribution centers proposed based off of this conceptual plan. However, as I mentioned, there's also the possibility that it would not be laid out specifically like this, and it may not all be these large of buildings as shown. However, that is a potential. And the other concerns talk about this being ahead of its time. There should be other improvements done first, such as the widening of I-10. There was great concern over the noise from all the trucks, the pollution from trucks and from emissions, just the buildings being out of scale. And I also did receive a letter, and it was from a resident within Palm Creek, Charlene Mankemeyer. She did provide a letter that was included in your packets, but she did ask that I just briefly state her concern, and you do have them, but she basically expressed much of what's summed up here, but she indicated that she selected Palm Creek intentionally because of its location, and the proposed uses are not conducive with the resort-style living of the Palm Creek area, and that was primarily her concern, but that's been echoed by the other responses that we've received. A lot of the concerns that were brought to the city's attention are actually reviewed and considered when we look at the review criteria associated with proposed planned area developments. And the primary criteria that does look at a lot of that is the relationship of the plan elements to conditions both on and off the property, because that top bullet point really speaks to compatibility. And I did discuss this on the previous slide, but primarily when you think about this subject site located at the confluence of two proposed principal arterial roads, that does build in some compatibility because of the way that it can ultimately carry traffic, and then just the spacing that is generated from that, and the fact that along principal arterial roads you do get bolstered landscaping, and the presence of the planned courts and interchange further north with I-10. But as far as setbacks go, I mentioned on a previous slide that they are providing for particular setbacks along property. Along the north property boundary is 45 feet. Along Hennis and Cottonwood is a proposed 35-foot setback. And then along I-10 is a 40-foot setback, part of which will sit within it a planned regional trail. But there's actually an even greater setback when you think about the relationship of the setback to building height, because buildings closer than 50 feet from Cottonwood, Hennis, or the north property line can be no taller than 28 feet. So there would, if it's going to be taller than a 28, no taller than 65, it would have to be a minimum of 50 feet from those property lines. Another criteria that we look at, and what was certainly raised as a significant concern in the responses we received, was the impact of the plan on existing traffic and parking conditions. And so it is factual that should this site develop at full build-out right now, most every street around it would fail. That the applicant provided a master circulation study that was prepared by a traffic engineer, and it was reviewed by city staff. And the intention of the master circulation study, it's a very high-level look at potential uses for that area, and the level of service of existing roads that are necessary to serve that use, and whether or not the level of service of those roads would fail if that use were implemented. It also looks at the distribution of traffic and from which direction traffic would likely go. And as a result of that master circulation study, it did call out a number of necessary improvements in order for this site to function. There's a lot of benefit to that study because it gives insight to the applicant what lies ahead. So there's a couple of different ways that the improvements will be achieved. Firstly, at the time of individual major site plan review, there'll be individual traffic impact analyses provided. So it would rely on that original master circulation study as the frame of reference, but it gets a lot more specific, and it looks at incrementally the individual developments proposed within and how that affects the surrounding level of service of the roadways. And so it's highly likely that the site cannot be built out until roadway improvements have been done, both adjacent to the site and off-site. The surrounding improvements are needed in order to accommodate much of the proposed development here. So really what will happen is immediately abutting the site, there will be roadway improvements made to Cottonwood and Hennis. That's sort of standard operating procedure when a site goes to develop. We receive the necessary right-of-way dedication and half-street right-of-way improvements. But the traffic impact analyses are going to say if more is needed in order for the site to function. So that's where it goes into recommended off-site improvements. So there can be no major site plan approved unless it can be demonstrated that there is no level of service failure. So how do they get there from here? Other than making improvements immediately abutting the site, there is the planned extension of Hennis to Quartzen, in part due to the fact that we also have the pending Vista Ranch development, which will carry Hennis through to Quartzen. We have the planned I-10 Quartzen interchange, which the design has been approved already, but it has not yet been funded. And it will also be reliant to a great extent of improvements by others. As we get more development in the surrounding area, each undeveloped site will be making its dedication and right-of-way improvements incrementally, and as an entire network, when this comes into place, it would be a different scenario. We would then have more roads designed at its full build-out and its full design. Alternatively, the applicant is also welcome to make off-site investment and off-site improvements, and there would be the potential for impact fee offsets if he's making improvements above and beyond what's needed for his particular development. I should have brought this up at a different screen, but I do want to point out that Hennis is not really regarded as a significant road right now because it really only goes to 4 lanes in a very limited section. But it is designed to be, like I say, 6 lanes in its ultimate build out. But it's planned to go south of Florence to a planned I-8 Hennis interchange, and it's planned to go north of Quartzen to Val Vista. Another criteria that I want to talk about is architecture and screening. So on the top right is a conceptual rendering of what one of the buildings within the Nexus PAD would look like. But textually within the PAD, it did indicate that there would be variations in the plane of the building and step backs to the plane to offer variations of scale. And how that would compare to some other buildings in the surrounding area. These are all taken near that Chandler Air Park. where you can see there is use of faux windows, different projections of the building, different colors used. Here's some different additional examples where you can see the building isn't just one level plane of concrete. There's different variations and jet outs and use of color. This particular image is really good because it shows how trucks can be effectively screened through the use of 10-foot walls, which is also being proposed in this PAD. One of the concerns raised by the property owner to the north was exactly that. We did receive correspondence from the property owner to the north that he had concerns about the proximity of the parking of trucks to the single-family development and how that could be effectively screened. And I think there is a way to do it with the standards that are proposed within the PAD. With regard to the public notice, we met that which is required by code. We did mail notice for the zoning application to owners of property within 300 feet on April 11th. The applicant contacted Palm Creek Management in October of 2022 to provide them information regarding the proposed development. However, they had very minimal follow-up from the ownership of Palm Creek. And we did receive, as I mentioned on the previous screen, a number of responses. There were 11 comments provided from Palm Creek residents, all generally against this proposed development. There were 2 correspondences received from Mission Royale residents. One was in support, one was against, and then as I mentioned, we did receive correspondence from the Vista Ranch owner. I indicate developer, but I was using that very generally. He's developing it by going through the zoning, but he's more of the owner. But he did express concerns and was recommending further mitigation. Primarily, he had concerns over traffic and how that would affect the traditional uninterrupted, quiet, safe design of streets within his development. The idea is that Hennis has been pushed largely over to the west side of both PADs to help accommodate that. But he was also requesting a 50-foot landscape setback to buffer his development from the Nexus development with dense plantings. Currently, what's proposed is a 20-foot landscape setback, and of course, that's not the same as the building setback, so it would be 20 feet of landscaping, and then there would be a setback of 45 feet. However, if there's any building over 28 feet tall, it would have to be no closer than 50 feet. He was recommending a little bit of a greater setback, basically a 1-to-1 ratio of height. So every foot of height, you get 1 foot of setback. So that would result in a 65-foot building setback, where right now it really would realistically be 50. So it's a matter of 15 feet. So staff is recommending that Planning Commission forward to City Council recommendation to approve the zone change from Urban Ranch to Nexus, subject to these 4 conditions of record. It primarily pertains to ensuring that there's access provided to an access challenged parcel between it and the interstate, and also to provide access to the planned regional trail. And then there's also a requirement asking for right-of-way dedication, potentially ahead of when we would typically get it, which is at the time of building permit. This condition would obligate the owner to convey right-of-way for Cottonwood and Hennis prior to that, should it be part of a citywide or capital improvement funded project. So that concludes my presentation for both items. And like I say, these are technically two separate items. They're two separate agenda items. So I'll leave it up to you on how you want to handle the discussion. But it would have to be, of course, two separate votes.
Very good. Commissioners, let's proceed with addressing both of these issues. Any questions for staff?
None.
Okay.
It's our second go-around, so
Yeah. Okay, very good. Yeah, would the applicant or their representative please come up and address the commission?
Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Jack Gilmore, Gilmore Planning and Landscape Architecture, 2211 North 7th Street, Phoenix. It's hard to approve one of Jim's presentations. It was very thorough.
Was earlier.
Doesn't need batteries.
Switch your line.
Batteries.
That's right, thank you. Thank you, Jim. If I may, I'd like to start again. Jack Gilmore, Gilmore Planning and Landscape Architecture, 2211 North 7th Street in Phoenix. As I said, Jim's presentations are very thorough. It's hard to improve upon that, but there are some points I guess I want to emphasize here. One is the general plan. This is the basis for a lot of these decisions. The general plan calls for this type of development to occur at this type of location, proximate to the interstate and proximate to these principal arterials, which are the appropriate transition between land uses. We want to be good neighbors to Palm Creek and to Vista Ranch. We have met with Vista Ranch. As a matter of fact, when we started this project last summer, one of our first meetings was to make contact with Vista Ranch, and we had sit down with them and realigned Hennis Road to address both concerns that we had and they had regarding dissimilar circulation going through the project. So we're in support of that. We're communicating right now with Vista Ranch regarding that north side. I think we can address their concern regarding the landscape setback, and that'll be a condition of part of the site plan approval. So that discussion has started. I know there's some concern from Palm Creek regarding some of the uses here. Circulation, noise, traffic is the primary one. As Jim said, we did do a master circulation study, and as this image shows, the master circulation created and supported this primary circulation. The principal arterials are designed to carry a lot of traffic, 6 lanes, 3-way each way, and that raised median. I think we can create the kind of separation that I think will address some of the concerns. There will be landscaping, of course, existing on the south side of Cottonwood. There is a median with landscaping, and then we'll have an enhanced landscape buffer on the north side. If we can go to that site plan, Jim, for the Nexus. The plan that we've prepared is really just a placeholder.
Hang on, sorry. I'll find you a better one.
This is the placeholder plan we submitted for the PAD. The big impact here is going to be not only the interchange at Courtson, because staff's made it very clear, the traffic generation is going to be reliant on the installation of that interchange. We are hopeful that the city of Casa Grande is successful in their grant application to get additional funding. ADOT supports it. The feds, I think, support it, but it's a funding issue. So we know Pinal County supports it. So I think there's a lot of support for the installation of that interchange, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that that grant is approved. But the final design and construction takes several years. We also have the issue of utilities, water and sewer. There is no certificates of assured water supply on this property, so we are relying on the ability for Indicap, my client, to be able to develop these buildings and lease them. In 10 years, when the next evolution of the 10-year period lapses, we can do additional subdividing at a later date, but initially, we are addressing the cost criteria for a minimum or maximum of 5 parcels. I think it's hard, like I say, it's hard to improve on one of Jim's presentations. We do want to work with Palm Creek. We are working with the management right now to hopefully set up maybe a neighborhood meeting and be able to address some of their concerns. I know some of the uses have been referenced as a concern. Everything we do on this project will be indoor. This is light industrial, light manufacturing, and commercial, so all this will occur inside these buildings. We can begin to address some of the internal circulation. This plan shows an east-west internal corridor that will direct a lot of our truck traffic, we believe, to Courtson, and then hopefully west to Hennis, north to Courtson, and to the new interchange. Initially, we may be relying on the extension of Camino Mercado to the south, because there is a signal there. But we all know that Florence Boulevard is congested, and that interchange is nearing capacity. So all the more reason to get this next interchange constructed, and I think that'll help quite a bit. I know that there's a lot of people that want to get up and talk. I will make that time available to them. But if there's questions that come up, I'd be glad to come back up and address any questions you may have. Thank you.
Very good. Hey, commissioners have questions for the applicant?
Chairman, I have a question.
Please.
Mr. Gilmore, so there was a public meeting process, I'm assuming, and did several of the surrounding residents attend that meeting?
We have not had a neighborhood meeting. I have been contacted by some of the residents. 3 emails came to my office, and I responded to those with a letter. And that prompted more discussions with Palm Creek management, and that's why we're trying to set up that open house.
So is that meeting all the notification and coordination that's required for these 2 items?
So our process does not require necessarily neighborhood meetings. It's discretionary on part of the planner to hold those or not with the applicant. We do notify property owners within 300 feet typically, but sometimes we reach out to 500 or even 1,000 occasionally. But that's property owners, so that means in the Palm Creek scenario, the residents themselves who are not property owners, they did not receive specific notice, just the owners of Palm Creek. So that's the normal process, but a neighborhood meeting was not required at the pre-application stage, nor at development under review stage.
If I may add to that, when we first started this, just like I said, we did reach out to Vista Ranch, and we did schedule a session, several discussions, and we did reach out to Sun Communities. And I think for many reasons, that effort included an offer to meet, and it took a while for that response to come back. But we do want to address their concerns, and that's why there is this interest to schedule an open house. So we're willing to do that.
Yeah, I was curious, is the only, so far of these concerns that the citizens have expressed, the only consideration that you guys have given to the site plan is the landscape buffer, right?
Of course, we can't commit to a specific site plan at this time, but I think when we learn more about some of these concerns, and it's primarily going to be visual and traffic, we can't really influence the traffic circulation on these principal arterials until we do specific TIAs, traffic impact analyses. That will determine the type of truck traffic and the percentage of employee traffic versus truck traffic. And that'll give us a chance to direct where that circulation occurs. So I understand the concern. It's difficult at this time to be very specific, other than the fact that we know principal arterials will carry a large volume of traffic.
They do. Yeah, they certainly do, but they don't exist today, right?
Correct.
And to me, the circulation study's a little bit of a paperweight, because it doesn't give the information that we need to make the educated decision of whether it's going to be impacted. You know, whether these, I love in Jim's presentation, he talks about half-street improvements on Cottonwood and Hennis, but there's more responsibility to the development as an impact, right? But this study doesn't address that because it doesn't get into the detail. And then it talks about Kachiris Lane being built in 2033. In 10 years, I can't see that being built, and the volumes that it shows taking that route versus taking Hennis is 994 cars. If it doesn't exist, those 994 cars are going to be on Hennis. So that's, you know, the volumes in this report are 9,000 vehicles a day. That's a lot of traffic on a two-lane road with no traffic signals. So that's just where I'm coming from when I look at the report.
Appropriate concern. I'm not going to disagree with that. I think that's part of the TIA impact, is that staff's making it clear that if any of these roads approach failure, then we have to incorporate mitigation. That can be in the form of traffic signals, additional lanes, decel lanes, acceleration lanes, but for this project, we're going to be very reliant on that interchange going north.
Right, and honestly, I just don't see it getting built. I think the grant money's going to go towards widening I-10 and not putting in a Courtson interchange, you know? We really
Okay, any more questions or comment? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Now I'd like to open the public portion of this meeting for the first case, which, again, yeah, we'll consider it open for the first case of the 0277, which is the major plan amendment to the general plan. We have to address these. So, anybody from the public like to address these issues, please come forward. Thank you. Please, your name and address, please. Thank you.
My name is Linda Wright. I live in Palm Creek residence, and that address is 1110 North Hennis Road, Casa Grande, 85122. I appreciate, I believe it's Celeste, for what you just said. I think, even though I think Mr. Gagliari said that there was a proposal for the exchange on Courtson, but the funding is not approved. And let's face it, I-10 is a death trap with truckers, and that money needs to go there. And I can't imagine any construction being done with Hennis and Florence. And the Florence exchange is so congested now. And say October through April, our park is filled with 4,000 people, motorhomes, a lot of people. That's only going to add to the congestion that we have. So I hope that in making this decision, I don't like the idea of the rezoning because we're buying a pig in a poke and we don't know what we're going to get if we go that route. Very concerned about the traffic and the congestion and the warehouse and 60 pads for huge trucks and the diesel. It just doesn't seem like it's a good fit. The presentation was very good. Thank you. Thank you, Celeste, for what you said. And please consider this. We want our community to be wonderful and safe, and this plan doesn't do that for us. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Chairman, can I just make a point of clarification? So I don't disagree with the land use. I think it's appropriate for the area. I disagree with how the impacts to the surrounding arterials are going to be affected because of it. So the land use, I think, is very appropriate for adjacent to I-10. So I just want to make that note so that everybody can hear that.
Very good. Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Ken Lane. I live at Palm Creek, 1110 North Hennis Road. I work at the gate. I've been there 10 years, and I've seen traffic increase over the years, every year. We have approximately 2,350 sites in Palm Creek. Each one of those sites has a vehicle, some of them two. They go in and out every day. We've registered over 2,630 cars in Palm Creek this year. At any given time, there might be 200 to 300 cars going out and coming in. In one 30-minute period between 12:30 and 1 o'clock in a February day, I had 159 cars. At that same day, between 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock, I had 283. If you know they're going out, they're coming back in. When they go out, they could be two abreast. They're all looking for a safe way to get out, and there is none. There's no stoplights, there's nothing. Sometimes it's really scary what you see. You hear a lot of horn honking, racing. Cars are not coming up Hennis at 35 miles an hour, and they're not going down Cottonwood at 40 miles an hour. The North Gate is serious too. We have up to 600 cars coming in and out of there. We don't know how many, if you build this, we don't know how many tractor trailers are coming up and down those streets. And it's going to be dangerous. You got schools you got to worry about. You got lots of traffic. What the 13 comments were is good enough. It pretty well explains what we think. And that'll pretty well wrap it up. It's just a dangerous area, and we need to do something about it. Even if you don't build this project, you need to put in some stop signs, four-way stops or something on Hennis and Cottonwood. Okay?
Very good. Thank you.
you.
I'm Flo Philippi from Palm Creek, 1110 North Hennis Road,
Thank you.
Casa Grande, Arizona. I've lived in Palm Creek since the day it opened, December 11th, 1998. And not too long after Palm Creek was opened, I was in contact with the city council that we needed to have lights or something. At that time even, it was difficult to get out on Hennis Road. My answer was, oh yes, we'll look into it. Well, I guess we know it was never looked into. I agree with the other speakers, and thank you so much for your comments and everybody's comments. Palm Creek is a beautiful resort. And I hate to see anything industrial come in there where we'll have fumes, noise, probably warehouses to look at. I know that Palm Creek's probably the most beautiful resort in the United States, as my husband and I full-time for 10 years, so I know. And I just hate to see anything that will be built that would do harm to our beautiful Palm Creek and be offending to the people who live there in the northeast section of Palm Creek for noise, fumes, or traffic. And right now, to me, traffic is the worst thing. Until they ever consider extending Hennis Road and getting the course and exit done, there'd be no sense in enlarging or widening, I should say, Cottonwood. Where are they going? There's no outlet. They're all going to end up back on Hennis Road, and we know that we absolutely can't take any more of that traffic. I know they don't have the revenue right now to even increase, enlarge and make more lanes on I-10. So I have to also agree where the fund's going to come to do this exit we need at Corston, so if they develop those lands, they can get out on I-10 more easily. And to me, we need to really know what they mean by light industrial. We really don't need heavy industrial in there with a lot of trucks and noise. We just don't need that. I would like Palm Creek to remain this beautiful place we are. Thank you all so much for all the effort you put into it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else like to address this issue?
Good evening, thank you. My name is Nancy Wood, 513 East Beckle Road, Casa Grande, Arizona. And what I want to really address is this area as far as environmental issues with the location. I spend a lot of time in the city, really enjoy it, and I drive around, I do a lot of photography, I help out the environment with looking out for wildlife in the area. And one of the issues I see with this area is because I spent a lot of time in it with a lot of the burrowing owls that Casa Grande has, because this is a corridor where a lot of them have lived for a long period of time. And wanted to let the developer know that, there are burrowing owls that are fairly heavily populated in this area, and they would need to check for their possibility of burrows in their development area. And having done this, I find that this area, as far as Hennis Road goes, because there's some owls that live on Hennis, there's some owls that live up Murray, there's owls that live Courtson, Arizola, and all that, and I see by experience what the environment is for this area, and heavy trucks, big trucks in this area would be a huge problem with the traffic. And the other issue is that there's a lot of water issues. Hennis turns into a river. You're lucky to even drive down it when it's flooded. Anything. And to have a lot of traffic on it, until some of these issues are addressed with the city, the kind of development that would be with heavy truck traffic or anything like that would be really problematic. Arizola and Cottonwood can be closed off and flooded. There's a lot of issues that need to be probably addressed, that having a development come in at this time like that would be a problem for the city itself, not just Palm Creek or whatever. It'd be just traffic problems and other things. So that's my concern for this area. I don't have anything against the development. It's just that we're kind of behind the times in some of the things that need to be addressed for maintaining that area with that kind of thing coming in. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address this issue? Sure.
Hi, my name is Brenda Jackson, and I live in Palm Creek at 1110 North Hennes Road. And I want to thank you for your presentation. It was excellent. And Mr. Gilmore as well for inviting us to have some kind of a meeting, a formal meeting. I, unlike the others, just scribbled down some notes for you folks to listen to. First of all, I totally disagree with the concept that this area is meant for this development at present time. What concerns me most is the verbiage light industrial and distribution. It's very problematic to me. You could say that I'm a subject matter expert on trucks and tractor trailers. And I can tell you, it would be the worst. I was the one sitting on the other side of the desk when individuals in the neighborhood came to me complaining constantly on what they breathed through their windows, what they heard. There is no way that anyone's going to tell me all those trucks traveling down I-10 right now, the tractor trailers, just envision those coming up to our neighborhood. This is a neighborhood. Many people live here. And in addition to Palm Creek folks. And I really need you to think about that. And so there's, of course, there's an environmental concern, the diesel, the emissions. It will be ridiculous. The sound, the noise level of a tractor trailer, it's insane with just one tractor trailer, let alone 60 bays for 60 tractor trailers. The loading and unloading, the noise of rolling stock going back and forth on and off trailers continually. These are things that we all need to think about should a change occur like this. It's unacceptable. It's a neighborhood. I would ask, do you not have an industrial area in this city? And if you do not, you should start one. This is not a place for that kind of activity. I'm sorry. Another thing is, of course, you're going to have all the employees, traffic, in addition to that. And you're going to have, people do not like to drive around tractor trailers. They're not safe. You can't see around them. They speed around them. And so I'm just trying to give you a little bit of the background on what the expectation is of tractor trailers when you, the proposal that you're going to consider tonight. Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the ingress-egress concern. We really haven't established what that's going to be, if that's going to be on Cottonwood. I'm from Portland, Oregon, and we did have to establish, I work with the city of Portland on a truck route. It was so severe. So I just want to say that, and the last thing I want to say is, and I said it before, the notification, Palm Creek, really, someone dropped the ball, I don't know who. I've only recently heard of this, but the moment I heard of it, I was at the city council meeting on Monday. I'm here now, and I will be here for every single one.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address this issue? All righty, seeing none, I'll close the public portion of this meeting. And, yes, so commissioners, questions, comments?
None.
Did you have a question? I do. So, the development to the north, we just, if my recollection butts up against it, we just approved for residential, and how, yeah, there you go, okay. Yeah, that's my memory, thank you. Then the other thing I think it's worth talking about, reminding all of us what's, you know, assuming these get approved, what's next steps?
Mr. Chairman, members of Planning Commissioners, should the major general plan amendment get approved and not anything else, it would result in this entire parcel being within the same general plan designation. Doesn't change its zoning, though, it would still stay urban ranch.
Mm-hmm.
So in that scenario, and sort of speaking with what, along the lines of what Commissioner Garza was expressing, is it would identify that the general plan category is appropriate, but the proposed zoning isn't the right fit for that general plan category. So that's one scenario. But in the scenario where you voted to approve both,
okay,
it would of course have to ultimately go to council. But the next step for them would be to submit a major site plan. And that would probably be incrementally divided up among that 320 acre site as
Okay.
each particular building went to build. It would be subject to planning commission consideration. And it's at the major site plan stages when we would get more technical reports. We would have drainage reports, a specific traffic impact analysis associated with that project, and like I say, elevations of the building. Assuming that gets approved, it could only really be approved if the TIA is able to demonstrate that
Gotcha.
the circulation works. But after that, then they can enter into permitting through, which is administratively processed.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Elder.
Yes.
You know, I guess I'll get this comment out. I think, as James had pointed out at the beginning of the presentation, the issue with this parcel in the current land use category is any rezoning, you're giving up 92 or 96 acres of just unusable land. That's really important land near our interstates. I was at a lunch and learn a couple weeks ago where they were talking about the state of transportation in Arizona. And within Maricopa County, nearly 80% of their jobs were within 2 miles of an interstate or state highway. It's incredibly important for us to position any of our land near our interstates for their best and highest possible use. And I think industrial, light industrial particularly, is an appropriate use in this area. And it will help the city economically and also be able to provide a greater number of jobs, high-quality jobs, high-wage jobs to people who want to continue living here rather than commuting up to Phoenix, commuting to Tucson, finding a job where they can. Being able to provide space for industrial development to locate in our city helps our city grow. It helps the residents of our city grow, and it helps provide them a better quality of life. That's why I think changing this land use and the zone is incredibly important for this piece of property.
Well said.
Commissioners, anything else? I guess I'm a little challenged with, with residential type, developments around this, but in consideration of, the cause we're gonna have, or the lack thereof, the only way to keep that residential is gonna end up with the pretty high densities. And so I'm not sure we've solved our traffic problems by not going this direction and these other considerations about employment and, being as you pointed out, near the freeway is helpful and important for the future. And my crystal ball is as bad as anybody's, but I certainly don't see, even with this change, I don't see that we're going to have, they're not going to start putting up all of those buildings, in even 10 years. So I'm not sure that this development will be that far out of sync as the concern is, which is for the timing of the intersection with Courtson and I-10. And I don't, like I say, my crystal ball is better than anybody else's, but I don't see it being out of sync with that as much as you could be afraid of, and you should be afraid of if it is that much out of sync. And I just don't see that that's perceived that that's the way it's going to go. And I don't have a better answer for how to develop this property. Appreciate folks that are trying to move ahead with development. That's my feelings and sense. I'll shut up and get off my...
No, you're good.
Get off my soapbox. Commissioners, it's ball's in our court for the first DSA 220027, which is the amendment to the general plan from neighborhoods to commerce and business.
Can I just ask one more question?
Absolutely, please.
Sorry. So previously, we've approved projects on McCartney. And was that Camino Mercado that was coming down all the way?
Yes. From.
From McCartney,
Yeah.
right? And now it's stopping.
Is that right?
No,
Am I-
the
I'm not
road,
following.
the road that eventually will come from McCartney
Is that
and
Camino?
come down will be Hennis. Hennis will come up and connect to McCartney eventually, yes.
So
Will
North of-
Camino Mercado
Camino,
Connect.
Are we
thought-
No,
thinking-
Camino Mercado's gonna kind of dead end,
At
north
Cortson.
of Cottonwood.
Gotcha. Like-
But Hennis will continue northerly all the way to connect into the Marabella and then into McCartney and then take Palomino Parkway, which is really Hennis, up
Okay,
through to
that's
Val
what I'm
Vista.
mixed up. So Palomino Parkway is right where Circle K is right now. Is that right?
Tuck,
That's Tucker. Palomino Parkway is the wider one to the west of that.
That's right, sorry.
but part of the confusion is, and I don't know if this is what you're recalling, it could just be a coincidence, but in the McCartney Center PAD, it had labeled one of those streets Camino Mercado, because at one time it had envisioned that was the street that was going to continue north. But since that time, it shifted over to Hennis.
Okay, maybe that's what
See
I'm
that?
recalling.
I remember
Okay.
that as well.
Okay. So, because when you're coming off McCartney, going down, so that will hit Hennis. So we will have a north and south way to go through, right? Okay,
Yes, that's true.
that is true.
Hennis will connect eventually Val Vista to I-8.
Yeah, that's certainly my,
Pardon me?
oh, no, I was just saying,
just-
it's many, many years away, but yes,
It's,
probably.
I know, I'm just trying to figure out, because if you do have truckers coming, I mean, there's no on and off ramp to Cottonwood from I-10. So you'd
Yeah,
have
I
to go
just-
cut Courtson, or you're gonna have to go Florence. So where's gonna be the traffic? Just Hennis?
well, and again, what you're talking about is what I hear you saying is you're talking about that site would develop and we would all of a sudden put up all these buildings all at one big time before these other road improvements got going. And I just, to me, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna be that much out of sync.
You don't think?
I don't. I don't. I mean, like I say, my crystal ball is as muddy as
No.
anybody's, but
I mean, when,
you wouldn't develop it if you couldn't get your trucks in, you wouldn't develop it anyway,
It wouldn't be
right?
economically sound.
It wouldn't be
It sounds
sounded
like-
to do that. So they've kind of got to go,
hand in hand.
usually they kind of go together. They're
Yeah.
kind of, the few things I've seen, they kind of go together and that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
So,
So that was my comment.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I got. the way
Chairman,
yours-
let me ask you a
Yes,
question.
please.
So say they develop the first 20 acres in the corner, right?
Right.
So what would you consider they need to do improvements for that little corner?
Well, there's a little TIA thing, and there's these
And
fancy
if
people
that
that have
TIA said
engineering
they
degrees
need
that tell you
well, that's
this.
right, I'm trying,
And
that's,
that, so,
That's what I'm trying to understand, because,
right. Because I think it's gonna get split up to the point where we're gonna miss the regional improvements that
We
need to be
are.
made.
exactly. That's what I'm seeing too.
What happens in my world, in my paid job.
I mean, because,
No, it's to move things along.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just
I
not
wouldn't
seeing
motion
it.
for it, so.
KDOT project.
Wish I did.
all right, commissioners. Are we, ready to, proceed?
Somebody, anybody?
Gotta do something one way or the other.
Chris? Chris, you ready?
Don't make me make the motion, that's terrible.
You want to make it?
I can announce it, that's helpful.
I'm not making it.
I don't even know what to say.
So,
I'd like to make a
Chelsea,
motion.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I would like to, are we forwarding the council? Yeah. Forward an approving recommendation for the city council, the recommendation approved for DSA 22-00027, the major plan amendment to change land use from neighborhood to commerce and business.
Okay, I have a motion,
Second.
second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Aye.
Yes.
Member Hubbard?
No.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
So just a quick statement
Yep,
before I make
absolutely.
my decision here.
Absolutely, go right ahead.
I'm struggling with the fact that there wasn't a lot of community support built upon the project and community influence. So I feel like we have this community development process so that we can engage the community and get their input, and the property owners can work together to find the resolution. So similar to the project we just heard, right? There was a frontage road concept developed where they worked with the property owners of Rancho Grande to kind of try and balance the setbacks, and I just feel like that coordination hasn't been there with the adjacent property owners, because we heard in the previous meeting that there was coordination with Vista Ranch, but then we got this letter from Mr. Lasur about how they were very, negatively impacted by the project. So I feel like if there is this big of a change to the general plan, that a neighborhood meeting should have been had, and there should have been some coordination. So my vote's no.
Chairman Benedict?
Can we make an amendment so we could have?
No, let's keep it moving.
No.
Okay.
Chairman Benedict?
Yep, as I had said, this is a challenge, and because of those reasons I had said earlier, I vote aye. What's the count?
5-2.
Okay. All right. And that was to pass it, 5-2.
To pass. Sorry.
Well, I don't want to say the wrong thing.
I'm sorry, that was to pass.
Thank you. I wasn't keeping track. Okay, so the next issue we have been addressing, DSA 22-00288, we have discussed, and we've had, should we open a public, what's your thoughts?
You were hearing both items at the same time, so I believe the public hearing was on both items, and you certainly heard most of your comments actually were probably to the PAD zoning anyway.
I agree, but I just didn't want to step out of line on this issue. So, we are back to the commission on.
I'd like to make a motion.
There you go.
Forward a favorable recommendation to City Council to approve the zone change from UR to Casa Grande Nexus Pad DSA 22-00288, subject to the following conditions set by staff.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Member Aldred?
Aye.
Member Vanderhayden?
Yeah, like the other one, I'm concerned about parking and stuff and traffic and things like that, but I think we'll see those things come to light when the major site plan's introduced. So on this, I'm saying yes.
Member Hubbard?
No.
Member Peters?
Aye.
Member Estrada?
Yes.
Vice Chair Garza?
No.
Chairman Benedict?
Just doesn't matter. Yes.
Okay.
Motion passes. Thank you. See you next round. Okay. Next item on the agenda is any public comments, general public comments. Anybody like to address the commission? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion, bring it back to reports from the planning director.
Administratively, we approved a minor site plan for Sun State for our wireless facility, actually at Vista Grande High School. We did a minor amendment to a site plan for A&R Towing to add a 3,600 square foot building to their property. The Board of Adjustment met to consider an interesting variance for all the corner lots within the Western Manor subdivision. The reason why that was interesting is Western Manor was a subdivision that was developed in the county and then annexed shortly after into the city. And it was built under county zoning, and the county zoning was less restrictive than the city zoning for corner setbacks. The county zoning allowed 10 feet, the city zoning was 20. We imposed 20, which really made a lot of the buildings legal non-conforming in terms of setback. So we did, the city actually initiated a subdivision-wide setback variance for all corner lots to bring them back into conformance with the setbacks that were built under in the county to allow for some renovations of those properties. So that was approved by the Board of Adjustment. City Council did rule on a number of your recommendations and approved them all. And I provided you with the monthly Development Center report. And I don't know if it was this month or last month, we've now broken out the single family from the build to rent. You can see that, so you can see how many single family we're doing versus build to rent. I think for April, we probably permitted more build to rent than single family. For the first 4 months of the year, I think single family is 152 and build to rent were like 91. So we're getting a lot of build to rent, and then probably even more importantly is the apartments. You can see that we've now permitted over 600 apartment units in the first 4 months of this year. So lots of new apartments, which is great because we hadn't built a new one since 2014, I think was the last time we really built until now. So, and that's all I have to report.
Very good.
Motion to adjourn.
And a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. No discussion on this one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.